Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a new playthrough on the channel. Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu gave us Yig as our opponent for the Summer of Lovecraft last week, so now we're going to step back into a very familiar adventure as we stick to the Cthulhu mythos. We're going to play Call of Cthulhu, Alone Against the Flames from Chaosium Incorporated. This adventure comes with the Call of Cthulhu starter set and gives you another option to build out a character. We played this adventure a couple times before on the channel, so I won't bother with the basic premise, as the first few entries will also lay that out for us. Basically, we're going to go through a choose-your-own-adventure in the Call of Cthulhu universe. We don't have a character to go through yet, so I'll just explain the very high-level general rules. So we'll be making various skill checks, and simply put, we want the roll to be under our skill level. There are other nuances to that, but we'll get into those when they become relevant. Anyway, let's move over to the main game area and start to set the scene. I've got my character sheet off to the side. What did I do with my pencil? I had a pencil in my hand and writing. Oh, here it is. Got hidden under one of my books. Just bring that over to the side. I've got my set of role-playing dice right here. We've basically got a... So just to show you what we've got here, we've got our D4 right here. D6, D8, regular D10. The 0 on here I believe is a 10. Let me double check that. I think it might actually be a 0 now that I think on it. Yeah, it looks like the... So it looks like it's 10 and 10s. So if it's combined, so if a roll of 0, 0, which is actually the I symbol, is combined with anything, actually it's this die, is combined with anything under, that's not that symbol on the 10s die, is considered under 10. If both zeros come up on the percentile die, it's 100%. Then we've got a D12 and a D20. So I think I thought there was a little more intro than that, but looks like we just have our first entry. So with that, I think we're all set here, so let's get into this adventure. Alright, let's start off with entry 1. The sun is high in the sky, a merciless ball of heat. You feel scorched by the time you reach the bus halt in front of Osborne's drugstore. It's a relief to put down your heavy cases and take off your hat for a moment. You fan your face. It has been a long summer here, in your hometown, and yet a curiously empty one. You look across the street at the grubby butcher's shop, the grocer's with its faded awning, and the shabby tobacconist. Mistrustful faces glare at you as they pass, eyeing your clothes and luggage. It was your parents' choice to live here, not yours. You were happy down south as a child, among Providence's white-walled houses and leafy churchyards. Perhaps this new job in Arkham will supply you the change you need. Yet everybody you know in the world lives here. You know nobody in Arkham, not one soul. You ask yourself one last time if you are doing the right thing. The answer is here. None of your supposed friends have come to see you off. You are alone. Whatever challenges lie in Arkham, it will be a new life and a brave one. A small gray motor coach approaches and rattles to a stop. You put your hat back on and pick up your cases. Go to 263. Alright, so we'll find entry 263. That was easy. Two young men with sullen expressions alight from the coach. One looks you up and down before heading away. The driver also steps down, glancing at you before crossing the road to visit the tobacconist. When he returns, he is rolling a cigarette between his yellowed fingers. He gives it a final twist and examines you as he reaches for his matchbox. He is a thin man in his 50s, dressed in a stained shirt with the bus company emblem. Yet his eyes are sharp in their dark sockets. Where to? You show him your ticket for Ossipee. From there you will connect to Rochester and Portsmouth, before the coastal line to Newburyport, and, finally, Arkham. You should be able to afford a rail ticket for at least some of the way. Otherwise, this will be the first of many long bus trips. The driver scratches the match and lights his cigarette. The end flares as he takes a draw. Then he exhales and gestures to the back of the coach. Luggage rack's up there. Look at your investigator sheet. At the top you have spaces for 8 characteristics. Strength, constitution, power, dexterity, appearance, size, intelligence, and education. Allocate the following values among them, writing them in the large square besides each. A 40, 3 50s, 2 60s, a 70, and an 80. If you would like more information about what each of these characteristics mean, read page 7 of book 2. When you've done that, go to 8. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to allocate those values off camera, then we'll come back and I'll show you what I've done. Okay, so for each of the characteristics, here's what I've done on the character sheet. It might be a little bit hard to read, so I'm going to bring this in as far as I can. Strength representing raw physical power is a 70. I also worked out the half and fifth values because I know those are going to be needed later. Constitution is your health and hardiness of the investigator. I made that an 80. Size is the combined height and weight of the investigator, so I made that a 60. Dexterity is a measure of the agility and speed, which I made a 50, as I did with the appearance to represent the physical appeal of your character. Intelligence is the investigator's ability to make leaps of logic and intuition, which is a 40, so he's not terribly bright. I'll keep that in mind with the occupation. Power is the force of will, spirit, and mental stability at a 60. Education, the knowledge that your investigators accumulated through formal education or the school of hard knocks. I made that a 50. So now that that's done, we want to move over to entry 8. Okay. The driver smokes and watches as you drag your cases to the back of the motor coach. The rack is set inconveniently high on the vehicle. You get a grip on the heavier case. If your size is 40, go to 23. If your size is higher than this, go to 38, and mine is 60, so we want 38. The driver continues to enjoy his cigarette, watching with keen interest as you struggle with the cases. You grit your teeth and heave the second one into place. Perhaps the residents of Arkham will have better manners. Go to 233. Knowing the residents of Arkham like I do, I'm not betting on that. Here we go. 233. The driver flicks his cigarette into the gutter and steps into the motor coach. Its engine coughs into life. You board, grateful that you will be the only passenger for the initial part of your trip at least. With mixed emotions, you watch from the window as the tired avenues of your old home slip behind you, receding into the distance. For a few minutes, you can still see the church spire over the brow of a low hill. Then the road dips, and it, too, is gone. Arkham is your new home. You will travel there and make a new start. You will see 2 smaller boxes to the right of each characteristic. Have each value rounding down, and write the result in the upper right box. Also, divide each result by 5, again rounding down, and write the result in the lower right box. We will use these numbers later. If you're using the interactive PDF version of the investigator sheet, you will see that it does all of the math for you. In the strip below, you will see tracks that record sanity and magic points. Beginning sanity is equal to your original power, and beginning magic points are equal to the same value you assign for power divided by 5. Mark these on the tracks. Then go to 134. Alright, so my original power is 60, which means my beginning sanity is 60. Then power divided by 5, so I start with 12 magic points, which brings me to 134. The coach putters through the countryside. At first, the interior is stifling and your stomach lurches with every bend in the road. However, the driver opens his window, and by switching seats, you find a spot where the breeze hits your face. You soon relax into the journey, observing the quaint little hamlets that the coach serves. A heavy-set woman boards at one settlement and gives you a polite nod. She gets off at the next one. The road rises a little, passing cornfields and orchards. The leaves are turning and the trees are alive with glorious reds and golds. You have just begun to doze when the driver takes a tight bend at speed. Add size and constitution together, then divide the total by 10, rounding down. This is the starting value for your hit points. Mark it on your investigator sheet. Your current total may drop, but it is unlikely to exceed the starting value. So size and constitution together is 140 divided by 10, which is 14. So I start off with, whoops, I marked the wrong track. So I should have 12 magic points and 14 hit points. Now that we've got that all straight. Next paragraph. You also have a luck score. Roll 3 six-sided dice. We call this 3d6. Multiply 3d6 by 5 to get your beginning luck and mark it on your investigator sheet. Okay, I think I'm just going to roll my d6 3 times. I could go get more dice, but I'm feeling a little bit lazy today. So our first roll is a 4. That's not terrible. Next roll. Actually, I had dice right here, so I could have grabbed more. A 2. And a 5. So 6, 11. I believe that was times 5, correct? Yes. So 55 luck. That's middle of the road, so that's not terrible. Now you must make a roll against your dex. Roll 1d100. This means rolling 2 10-sided dice and using one value for the tens and one for the units. Unless one die is clearly a tens, see role-playing dice on page 4 for further details. If you rolled equal to your dex or less, you passed the roll. If you rolled greater than your dex, you failed. You may be tempted to skip such rolls and simply pretend you always pass. But Call of Cthulhu is a game of mystery and horror. The terrible disasters that can befall your character are part of the fun. You will not necessarily have more fun if you pass every roll than you would have if you failed. If you pass the dex roll, go to 261. If you fail, go to 59. So we're going to take our D100. Let me see if we can zoom in here. This is obviously our tens, this is our units. And against our dex isn't great, so we want to be at or under 50 with the roll. That's a 36, so we pass. Which brings us over to 261. A desperate yell awakens you. You feel yourself slide from the seat as the driver spins the wheel and the motor coach plunges off the road. You grab hold of the seat in front just in time to prevent a painful fall. The coach stops with a thump. Now you see what has happened. A Fordson tractor is stopped on the road and your driver has had to swerve to avoid the steel obstacle. He leaps from his seat into the road, unleashing a string of curses at the farmer. You take a moment to catch your breath. Perhaps you should offer assistance? But the driver has already returned. He backs the coach up a little and threads it around the tractor, glaring at the farmer. Go to 71. Well, that was rude. A tractor just happening to drive into our path. Entry 71. Here we are. You resume your journey. The driver takes the curves with more caution than before. He glances over his shoulder at you a couple of times. Sorry about before, he says. That fellow is dumber than a hog. I'm Silas. What's your name? The accident was at least as much Silas's fault as the farmer's, but it doesn't seem shrewd to antagonize the man while he is driving you through the middle of nowhere. Make up a name for your investigator and for your character and record it on your investigator sheet. You may add your age. For the purposes of this adventure, your character should probably be aged between 23 and 36. Let's see, we're going to call this investigator, I guess, Michael Smith. And he's going to be age 35 for the purposes of this. 35 male. Okay. The coach turns onto a narrower road which weaves uphill through woodland. Silas becomes chatty. Going to Arkham, eh? Can't say I ever heard of the place. Went to Boston once. Didn't like it. Too much hustle and bustle. You got family there? A special someone waiting? The afternoon is wearing on. You see no harm in confiding in Silas about your new life. A job, eh? What's your line? Choose an occupation for your character from the following options. If you're an antiquarian, go to 102. Doctor of Medicine, go to 226. Journalist to 239. Private investigator to 249. Or professor to 265. I think looking at the line of stats we have here, we're going to go with the private investigator. So, volume of PI. Go to 249. Okay. You skirt around the details of the profession in your usual way, mentioning only that you have helped the police to clear up various problems in the past. Your heart pounds a little faster as you think of the post you've secured at the Blackwood Detective Agency. You've had enough of investigating marital infidelity and bank clerks on the take. It sounds like the Blackwood Agency is just the opportunity you need to cut your teeth on some real villainy. Silas narrows his eyes, but he says nothing. Your credit rating skill is 20%. I will note that on the sheet. And then occupation skills are art, craft, photography, disguise, law, library use, psychology, spot hidden, and one of either charm, fast talk, intimidate, or persuade. You may also pick any other skill except Cthulhu Mythos as a personal specialty. Allocate the following values among these occupation skills, writing them in the large square beside each. 70, 260s, 350s, 240s. Ignore any starting value already mentioned in the investigator sheet, then go to 128. Once again, I'll allocate those values off camera, and then we'll come back to see what I've done. Combination of pencil being hard to read and my handwriting not being great. Art, craft, photography got a 40, and I've already done the half and fifth values. Disguise got a 60. Intimidate got a 50. Law got a 40 or 50. Library use got a 40. Psychology got a 50. Spot hidden got a 70. And track, which was my chosen skill, got a 60. So that brings us to 128. Okay. You realize Silas hasn't made a stop since the incident with the tractor. The motor coach winds its way uphill. However, your thoughts are interrupted as the road crests a ridge and you are treated to a magnificent view of the vista below. A creek snakes through the valley, breaking the rich autumn palette of the tree line. In the distance, the white mountains rise into a hazy cloud. There is no settlement, not even a cabin, as far as the eye can see. Birds drift through the treetops, and you can just make out what might be two white-tailed deer lingering by the water. Perhaps you are making a mistake by moving to the city. Could you survive on your own in this lush wilderness? You have a base ability in most skills listed in brackets after the skill name on the investigator sheet. For instance, you have 20% in climb and a base dodge equal to half your dex. Choose 4 skills which are not your occupation skills, nor Cthulhu Mythos. These are your personal interest skills. Boost each of those by 20 points. At this point, you may like to calculate the half and 1/5 values for each skill. In just the same way you did as for your characteristics, see the table on page 23 of Book 2. Remember to round down. If you're bored of calculations, you can leave the math until it becomes necessary. Or, if you're using the interactive PDF version of the investigator sheet, you'll see it does all the math for you. Now go to 144. So my personal interest skills, let's take another look at those. I think we're going to take Locksmith up by 20, so 21. Half of that would be 10, I think. Then fifth, we'll call that 4. Natural World will boost by 20, which will go to 30. Half is 15, fifth is 6. We'll take Drive Auto up by 20 to 40. 28. And we'll go... let's go Listen up by 20. So 40, 28. I'm trying to choose these somewhat with a private investigator in mind. I'll go to 144. The motor coach rattles on through the hills and Silas lapses into silence. The sky darkens behind you, pinks tinting the clouds as the sun descends. Finally, a welcome sight comes into view. A settlement on the crest of a hill. This doesn't look like the picture you've seen of Ossipee, but perhaps you can persuade Silas to stop while you stretch your legs. Minutes later, a harsh stuttering from the engine interrupts your reverie. Silas frowns and rattles the gear stick. The motor coach falters in its ascent. Silas utters a curse you don't recognize and grinds his teeth, struggling at the wheel. You seem to inch up the hill until you reach the first buildings, low dwellings constructed from a rough red stone. Silas wrestles the coach into a small bay off the road. He scrambles from his seat and makes for the engine compartment. You must choose to make a roll against Drive Auto or Psychology. If you choose Drive Auto, you need to roll equal to or less than the skill value. If you choose Psychology, you need a hard success. This is a roll equal to or less than half the skill value, the number in the upper right box. You may only attempt one skill roll. If you roll a success against Drive Auto, go to 174. If you roll a hard success against Psychology, go to 162. If you fail, go to 194. Alright, so looking at my skills, I can either choose Drive Auto or Psychology. A hard Psychology would be at 25, so I'm going to try my luck with Drive Auto at 40. See how that goes. So I'm going to be at or below 40 with the roll. Which in 86 most definitely is not. So we're going to 194. Silas opens the engine compartment and sticks his head inside. The hot metal pops and sizzles. He pokes at various components, then withdraws and wipes his brow, smearing it with dark grease. I ain't sure what's wrong. Might be the oil pressure. Might be something knocked off kilter when we took that spill. Can't do much about it till the engine cools neither. And with the light failing, I reckon we'll be here through the night. He wipes his hand on a rag. The shadows from your surroundings are already long and the air is chilly. You feel stiff from the journey and a night in the rickety coach sounds unappealing. Silas sees your dismay. This here's Emberhead, miles from any place. I only come through twice a week, but the folks here are good people. May Ledbetter keeps a spare room. She'll look after you. Up that way, up that alley, turn right, first house on the left. He scratches his cheek, looks again into the engine compartment, and spits on the ground. Meet me back here at 8 in the morning, and we'll see how's we stand. To look for May Ledbetter's house, go to 267. To ask Silas where he will spend the night, go to 251. To challenge Silas about the breakdown, go to 257. Now, earlier we decided not to yell at Silas since he was driving us through the middle of nowhere. And given that he's kind of looked after us a little bit, we're just going to make small talk, see where he's going to spend the night. So, go to 251. Here we are. You ask about Silas's plans. He gives the engine a sour glance before answering. I've got acquaintances here in the village. Reckon one of them owes me a favor. Enough for bed and breakfast in any case. He stares at his grubby hands. Probably won't stretch to a hot bath. You don't seem to have a lot of options. You fetch your cases from the back of the motor coach. The last thing you need is for all your worldly possessions to disappear into some stranger's hovel overnight. Go to 267. Yeah. Alright, 267. You drag your cases between the sullen buildings. You feel surprisingly weary, considering you have spent all day sitting down. Silas's directions lead you to a modest dwelling with a slate roof. A nameplate reads Ledbetter, and underneath a sign in neat copper plate reads Lodging Room. The lane around you is gloomy, but a lamp flickers in the window. A breeze chills your face. You're not about to begin your new life by sleeping in the street. You rap on the weather-beaten door. Go to 4. Yeah, it seems like beginning a new life on the street would not be a good plan. I'm going to grab a quick drink here because I feel my throat getting a little dry. Much better. Going to entry 4. After a moment, you hear footsteps inside the house. A bolt is drawn back and the wooden door swings open. A figure with loose curls and a rough-looking house dress peers at you. Her gaze takes in your traveling suit and your cases. Her voice is a slight Irish lilt, which I won't try to imitate. Hello. Should I take it as you're looking for a room for the night? You inquire as to her rates, suppressing a grimace. As far as you've seen, the village does not offer you many alternatives. Oh, you'll find them very reasonable, she says. You look tired. I'm May. Come inside and we'll talk over a cup of tea. The Ledbetter house feels cramped, with a low ceiling and simple fittings. But it is well kept and a cheerful fire crackles in the grate. The aroma of the tea is soothing and the cup warms your fingers. Have you come to Emberhead for the festival? Asks May. To explain what happened with Silas and the coach, go to 14. To ask about the festival, go to 21. What festival? Let's go to 21. Well now, I suppose the festival is about the only reason folks come to Emberhead. I thought you would maybe come to study it or take photographs. Well, it's not tomorrow night, but the night after. I suppose it looks very strange to a passerby. May tops up your tea. The spout chinks against your cup. We've got the beacon, you see. One night every year, there's a torchlit procession and we light the beacon on the cliffs. You've never seen the like of it. They say it keeps the spirit of the village alive for another year. It's a celebration. A celebration... She trails off for a moment and blinks. But you didn't come to hear me blather, and you must be hungry. I can rustle you up a bit of stew. How would that be? You ask again about her rates, and May names a price so low you accept it without hesitation. The room is small but comfortable, and the stew dark and hearty. After dinner, you have a couple of hours before your usual bedtime. To talk to May some more, go to 31. To walk around and get your bearings, go to 75. To turn in for an early night, go to 63. With the long day we've had, I think we're just going to turn in for an early night. So 63 is where we're going. If I can ever find the entry. Ah, here we are. As May stands, you hear a clunk behind you. You look over your shoulder, but all you can see is a wooden door securely closed. May tuts. The young lady of the house. She'll have been listening to us. Ruth, come and greet our guest. There is a short pause, then the door creaks open. Two wide eyes peer at you from the gap between tousled hair and a rough nightgown. What do you say? The eyes blink. Pleased to meet you. Now get back to bed. The door closes again. My daughter Ruth, 10 years this summer. She's a delight and a torment all in one. Don't worry, she sleeps in with me. She'll not disturb you. Good night now. You retire to your room. It's a little chilly, but you are too tired to worry about lighting the fire. The sheets are clean and the bed soon warms up. The silence outside is strange after living in a town for so long, but you soon drop off. Now go to 154. Yeah, I can imagine that would be a little bit of an adjustment period from living in a city like that for so long. 154. Here we go. You dream of fire in the grate, coruscating colors shimmering through the dancing tongues of flame. At first, they are tiny, almost microscopic, but they grow and grow until a kaleidoscopic inferno spills from the fireplace, spreading across the floor, up the sheets. You wake with a start. Daylight glints through the curtains. You get up and examine the grate, blinking the sleep from your eyes. It is quite cold. If you have taken any damage, you may heal 1 hit point back for your night's sleep. Now go to 166. Except we haven't taken any damage from that. May seems to have no running water, but has supplied some in a ceramic jug. You freshen up at the washstand and go in. She cooks a hearty breakfast and leaves you in peace to eat. At about 7:30, you are paid up and packed and ready to go. You bid May goodbye, and she wishes you the best for your new career in Arkham. If you succeeded at a skill roll last night and wish to investigate the results further, go to 178. Otherwise, go to 192. We just turned straight in, so we're going to go to 192. You are already tired of your heavy bags. Hopefully Silas has repaired the motor coach and you can resume your long journey. A sourpuss he might be, but the old driver seems to understand his vehicle well enough. You pause to check your watch, still 20 minutes early, and round the final corner. The motor coach is gone. Great. You put your bags down and search the area, trekking up and down slopes and around corners. At the edge of the village, you trace the long road back as it winds across the hills. 8 o'clock comes and goes. There's no coach to be seen. A passing villager notices your bags. Looking for the bus? I heard him take off at first light. He's due back in 3 or 4 days. If you need a place to stay, May Ledbetter rents a room. The man raises his hat to you and strolls on into the village. You curse Silas under your breath. Perhaps he went for help, but you wonder if the old goat has stranded you here on purpose. Go to 218. Delightful. So now we're stranded, apparently. 218. May is doing laundry and looks surprised to see you again. Forget something? When you explain the situation, she offers to store your bags while you try to arrange alternative transportation. You are grateful to relinquish the load. Nobody here has anything like a car. She strokes her chin and narrows her eyes. Maybe you could find somebody with a horse and a cart for your bags. I could ask around later. Try Mr. Winters at the village hall. He'll know if anyone will. Or ask among the artisans. Their workshops are first left on Silbury Street. She reaches over and squeezes your wrist. Don't worry. I won't see you sleeping in the street. Money or no money. You thank May and turn to face the village. Go to 6. You know, part of me is almost a little suspicious of hospitality this much, but here's entry 6. You wander the streets of Emberhead without any particular destination in mind. The village is built on a relatively flat upland with splendid views. To the north, the hazy tips of the White Mountains reach for the heavens. To the south, the sparkling waters of Lake Winnipesaukee touch the horizon. The village itself takes less than 5 minutes to cross from edge to edge. You arrived on the winding road to the west. The only other road leads to the south, following a lower ridge of land as it turns east. In the southwest of the village, an open grassy space borders a ruined church, its graveyard cresting the cliffs. To the northeast, the 3 main thoroughfares meet at a raised black structure. It looms stark against the sky. You may now ask about transportation at the local general store. Go to 16. Seek out the village hall. Go to 84. Walk down to the lower level and check out the eastern road. Go to 115. Examine the large metal structure. Go to 57. Explore the church. Go to 34. Look for local transport with their own transport. Look for local people with their own transport needs. Go to 96. Let's go take a look at that lower road, actually, up to 115. The air is fresh, and the walk down the lower ridge down to the lower ridge invigorating. You notice cultivated fields stretching through the lowlands around Emberhead, and among the crops, some livestock, but no horses. Are you going to have to make your onward journey on foot? Further down, the road skirts the edge of the ridge and descends. There are a few scattered hovels here with signs of habitation. They are set a substantial distance apart. As you examine them, a door opens and an older man steps out. He wears a bedraggled suit but carries a piece of cloth, which he tosses over his head like a hood. As he does this, he sees you and freezes. Make a luck roll. If you succeed, go to 127. If you fail, turn to 135. So our luck right now is a 55. Hopefully we don't make a mess of this roll. That's a 17, so we actually passed that with flying colors, which brings us to 127. The man looks up at the village, scanning the cliff tops. You get a brief flash of his face. There is something unsettling about it. Then he turns to walk away from the road, but as he does, he raises a hand and slowly beckons to you. If you follow the strange man, turn to 142. If this seems unwise, turn to 160. Well, we're already in a pretty rough situation, and we're probably going to do some unwise things throughout this adventure, so we might as well follow him. In for a penny, in for a pound with unwise situations, right? 142, I believe. Yes. Okay. You follow the man around the outcrop. He glances up, then steps behind two rocks and vanishes. Closer inspection reveals a narrow channel leading into the cliff. There is just enough light to see a small, natural chamber within. You will be uncomfortably close to this man if you go inside. To follow him in, turn to 191. To keep your distance, go to 160. In we go, since we're already in this situation, so 191. With wary steps, you squeeze between rocky outcrops and enter the concealed chamber, almost banging your head on the low ceiling. The man settles back against the wall and watches until you draw close. Then he slides back his hood. Make a sanity roll. If you fail, lose one sanity, then go to 199. So our starting sanity is 60, which once again we want to be at or below with our roll. Let's see, that's a 52, so we're fine there, which brings us to 199. Some of the man's face remains. A strip from the side of his jaw to his right eye socket is healthy and pale, if aged. But the left side is consumed by angry scar tissue. One eye droops, hooded by melted flesh, and the nostril on that side is pulled open to leave a gaping hole. The disfigured man studies your reaction with his one good eye. Name's Arbogast. Willard Arbogast. Guess I don't need to ask what brings you to Emberhead. If you claim to have come for the festival, go to 206. If you admit that Silas has stranded you here, go to 214. Let's call a spade a spade. Silas has stranded us here. That swollen mouth gives a little twist downwards. Son of a devil has rat's blood. His fingers tighten into a fist. Go to 221. Arbogast fixes you with a lopsided yet intense stare. You seek me out, eh? He looks up at the cave ceiling. Which one of them told you about me? Never mind, it doesn't matter. Truth is, they fear what I know. They'd never come at me direct. Don't want to end up like old Arbogast. He giggles. The high-pitched sound is all the more grotesque coming from those bloated lips. Then, abruptly, his gaze turns to iron. Emberhead died 40 years ago. Shattered by flame, consumed by the stars themselves. The ancient hill was cleansed by inferno, and the blackened ground came new life, as is the way of all things. The Abenaki knew. Arbogast wipes his nose on his sleeve, except none of that happened. The flames were turned away. The necessary death postponed a year. And a year again. And now those up there, he stabs a scrawny finger at the ceiling, think themselves saviors of the village. They think they can defy the great old ones. Yeah, Cthulhu. He shakes his head. With strange eons, their lives matter less than the blink of an eye. A fierce intelligence burns in his gaze, but you suspect Arbogast may be quite insane. Should his mood change, it would not be difficult for him to seize one of the loose rocks and crack your skull with it. To ask Arbogast about the Abenaki, turn to 227. To ask him about the Great Old Ones, go to 237. To ask him about the Villagers, go to 245. To leave while you still can, go to 253. Before I make that decision and go to the corresponding entry, I need to take a small break. So I think we're going to go ahead and ask him about the Great Old Ones. Turn to 237. A smile of sickly rapture comes over Arbogast's scarred features. The Great Old Ones? The Windwalker, Cthulhu, the Crawling Chaos. Like the rest of them, spread like gnats upon the earth, you think your actions matter, yes? Your existence matters. He shakes his head. We are the dust that shifts in the breeze, the motes that drift in the last rays of the sun. You are nothing. We are nothing. He gathers himself into silence. Just when you think the sermon is over, he stirs. Here you are closest to the living flame. Not that belching green column beloved of Kingsport. I mean it which preceded all life on earth. It which lit the void while our world was formed. It is infinite fuel, infinite patience. It will consume all. Arbogast runs a hand through his hair. A wide strip is missing on the left side, displaced by scar tissue. He climbs to his feet. You may permanently add 2 points to your Cthulhu Mythos skill. Go to 259. So 2 points to Cthulhu Mythos and go to 259. Which is... Arbogast pauses in the shadows. There's something about you, something the previous ones never had. Perhaps you can make it through. If you want to hear more, meet me again after dark. 9 o'clock. The graveyard on the other side. He lifts a gnarled finger. Don't be followed, else I won't be there. This ain't the time of year for a showdown. Arbogast wipes his nose on his sleeve again. Go now. Their eyes are on me. And stranger, don't try to run. You'll never make it. You emerge into the sunlight blinking and more than a little shaken. You have discovered a secret. Later tonight, the text will offer you a chance to follow up on a previous appointment. At that point, if you want to meet with Arbogast again, add 20 to your current entry number and go to that new entry. For now, go to 160. Let's see, so I'm just going to make a note here. Previous appointment. Entry plus 20. So going to 160. You turn back to the road in your core business, getting out of Emberhead and onwards to Ossipee. The ridge gives you a good viewpoint from which you can see the course of the road. It winds with a hill, disappearing into woodland for a while before emerging further on. You lose sight of it somewhere through a second patch of woodland. By your best estimation, that is at least 6 or 7 miles distant. You see no other settlements or traffic. It may be worth taking a chance and walking. The weather is still mild, but you will need supplies before you attempt it. Go to 25. Well, I don't know if we are going to attempt it, especially with Arbogast's warning in mind. You're beginning to get your bearings in Emberhead. Would you like to explore some more? You may choose another option from those below. Don't repeat a previous choice. Once you've tried 4 options, or before that if you're ready to move on, go to 3. Which brings us back to the decisions we had earlier. I believe it was the same 6 we had. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. Once we've tried 4 options and we've already tried 1. So let's go check out the church next. So 34. You cross the street towards the church. As you glance to your left, your gaze alights on the large metal structure. Something bothers you about its positioning. You back up and look again. Yes, Emberhead's central thoroughfare points directly at the structure. This seems too precise to be a coincidence. You press on and draw into the shadow of the church. The building is in a sorry state. The top of the steeple is missing, a ragged gash of splintered boards marking its absence. The floors beneath it have collapsed. It appears to have torn through the roof of the main building as it fell. Only the back half is still intact. The white paint which once covered the church has yellowed and peeled. It seems safe enough to explore the rear section. Old pews are stacked against the wall, choked with mildew. Most of the windows are broken. You guess the church has been disused for about 20 years. There's little more to interest you. Make a ride roll. You may have a bonus die. Roll the 10% die twice and take the lower result. If you succeed, go to 46, otherwise back to 25. So our ride is our base skill of 5. Yowza. But we have a bonus die, so that's something. Something which is not going to be relevant, because even if we get a bonus die of a 0, a 6 won't let us pass. So that brings us back to 25, I believe, which should be back to our choices again. So now we're on 2. So let's go check out the large metal structure this time, 57. You walk up the approach, the most central of the village's major streets. It points directly at the odd metal structure. As you emerge from the shade of the nearby buildings, you are greeted by a magnificent panorama spread from the north to the southeast. The last colors of fall tint the hills like in a sleepy gold. The structure, by contrast, is made from uncompromising iron, singed black. It supports an immense curved platform at the level of your head. Further struts snake up to a central point. It looks like they may have been some kind of sculpture at one time, but are now twisted and melted beyond recognition. An older gentleman passes, looking up at you with rheumy eyes. "Are you here for the festival?" he asks. "That's the beacon. When they light it, night after next, you'll be able to see it 10 miles away." He gives a little nod of satisfaction, then moves on, leaning on his walking stick. Now you notice bundles of wood, tied and stacked against the buildings nearby. Perhaps this festival will be an interesting diversion, but you really must head to Arkham as soon as possible. Make a spot hidden roll. If you succeed, go to 69, otherwise go to 25. Our spot hidden is 70, as it's one of our occupation skills. Let's see, that's an 81, so that's a fail on that somehow. Which sends us to, where were we? 25. So that's our third, I believe that's our third option. And let's go seek out the village hall, go to 84. The village hall backs up against a cliff at the east end of Silbury Street. It's the largest building you've seen so far in Emberhead. It is, however, locked and shuttered. You walk around it, peering through the gaps in the shutters. There seems to be one large room, presumably for community meetings, and a smaller annex that serves as an office and archive. One of the windows is bricked up. Back at the main door, you can see no posted opening hours. "Mr. Winters doesn't open up mornings this time of year," says a gray-haired woman passing by. "Best come back this afternoon." You ask whether the office has a telegraph. "Don't know," she shrugs. "Who would we call?" "You'll have to try again later." Go to 25. Which should bring us back to our choices, and we've tried 4 options, so let's go to 3. Your morning exertions have left you hungry. You roam the streets of Emberhead looking for sustenance. There is nothing resembling the busy cafes of your hometown or anything that might be called a restaurant. It is beginning to look like you will have to get supplies from the general store when May Ledbetter comes down the street with a girl trailing in her wake. This must be Ruth. As she notices you, she races past her mother and approaches you with a smile. This is a different Ruth from the shy creature of last night. As she reaches you, she stops and stretches her arms up in celebration. She looks up into your eyes. Abruptly, the smile drops from her face and she looks several years older. "Get out before the festival," she hisses. "Get out!" She blinks hard, then scuttles back to her mother. May approaches, wrapping an arm around her daughter's shoulders. She smiles. "How are you getting on? Have you found transport?" Startled, you explain the frustrations of the situation. "I try Mr. Winters in the village hall. He's always in of an afternoon. You'll be hungry by now? Help yourself to any food in the house. The door is not locked. You glance at Ruth where she has squirreled herself behind her mother's leg. Her eyes implore you to silence. If you ask Ruth about what she said, go to 9. If you ask May about what Ruth said, go to 15. If you say nothing, go to 22. Something's up here, and I think the less said right now, the better. So let's go to 22 without jarring the camera. You take your leave of the Ledbetters and head toward their house. The door opens easily. In the low kitchen, you make a meal from stodgy bread and leftover stew. A little window offers a view to the mountains. If you learned one thing this morning, it was that Emberhead streets hold little to occupy the visitor from out of town, but there is still about 5 hours of daylight remaining. You could take some provisions and the bare essentials from your luggage and set out in the hopes of reaching another settlement before dark, or you could ask advice from this Mr. Winter. If you prepare and walk out of town, go to 28. If you head to the village hall instead, go to 11. This sure seems like a place that it's not going to be easy to get out of. And again, with Arbogast's warning, I think we'd better just sit tight. So back to 11. The village hall overlooks the lower north ridge of the village. You walk along Silbury Street to find it, conscious of the oppressive black metal structure framed at the end of the road. The shutters of the hall are open and some windows left ajar. There is no knocker, but a little bell over the entrance tinkles as you push the front door. Inside, a sturdy door to your right is marked Private. To your left, an opening leads through to a bright room. You take a few steps inside. Benches line the walls and there are 2 notice boards mounted between the windows. To examine the notice boards, go to 17. To knock on the closed door, go to 24. Let's take a look at the notice boards first. The floorboards creak beneath you as you cross the room. You feel a slight spring in your step. Perhaps this room is used as a gymnasium for the village children. One notice board appears to be for the adults of the community and one for the children. The former looks neglected, featuring handwritten advertisements for household items and a yellowed note about telegraph pricing. There is nothing about the festival. The children's notice board has a schedule for weekly creche services and a number of paintings obviously done by the children themselves. Most are incoherent, though colorful. As best you can tell, they depict fireworks, or perhaps the tale of Joseph from the book of Genesis. One has lost a pin and hangs upside down. It shows a giant bird attacking Emberhead. Or it might simply be that the artist has not yet mastered the subtleties of scale. Make a spot hidden roll. If you succeed, go to 30. If you fail, go to 37. Once again, spot hidden is a 70, so hopefully we'll have a little better luck than we did earlier. We have much better luck than we did earlier, so that brings us to 30. As the afternoon sun hits the floor, you notice something curious. The boards under the window are newer than the boards in the center of the floor. The frames also show signs of having been replaced in the recent past. Perhaps rain leaked in and rotted the wood. You may checkmark the small box beside the spot hidden skill. Now go to 37. So we'll check off the spot hidden box, and we'll go to 37. The door scrapes behind you. A middle-aged, bespectacled gentleman appears in the doorway. May I help you? You explain you are visiting on May Ledbetter's recommendation. Ah, well, I'm Clyde Winters. I'm not sure I can help you, but would you care for some coffee? I'm partial to a cup in the afternoon. He gestures to the open door behind him. This seems like a worthwhile opportunity, and you are a little thirsty. Go to 43. It's almost like this adventure is breaking the fourth wall, because once again, I'm getting a little thirsty. With my own thirst sated for the time being, let's go to 43. You step through the door marked Private. The other side of the village hall is in marked contrast to the public space. The room is compact, lined with shelves and file alcoves. One corner is reserved for a tiny pantry and what is presumably a water closet. You study Mr. Winters as he fills the percolator. Although thin on top, his hair is oiled and neatly swept back. His suit is a sober affair, and well-tailored even if the cut is a little old-fashioned. A lesser man working alone might have loosened his bow tie for comfort. On the desk against the opposite wall, you notice what looks like a telegraph set. To ask about the telegraph immediately, go to 56. To make small talk with Mr. Winters first, go to 49. Something's not right, but I'm going to just ask about the telegraph immediately. The telegraph. Much as we value our isolation, we do need the link sometimes. You were hoping to send a message? I must apologize. The line has been down for 2 weeks. I reported the fault, of course, but of course, they're not so speedy when the problem lies in a rural area. I'm expecting a repair the day after next. I do appreciate how frustrating this must be. The coach is due in, 3 days? But I think he's going west. Perhaps you might engage a wagon? One of the farmers might... You explain that you have asked a few of the residents already, but to no avail. I'll tell you what. Winters pours you a steaming cup of coffee. The dark liquid smells rich and strong. When the repair crew arrive, I'll ask them to take you back with them. How would that be? They might want a $1 or $2 to grease the wheels. The day after tomorrow? It's less than ideal, but it's the first real opportunity you've had. To thank Winters and leave, go to 180. To ask about his library, go to 62. We're not very interested in books right now, so we'll just thank him and leave. Go to 180. Okay. As the light fades, you return to the Ledbetter house and eat a light supper. May is unusually taciturn. Ruth's eyes flickered to yours several times during the meal. There is an urgency there you cannot quite interpret. Afterwards, May ushers the girl into their room. You have been in Emberhead for barely 1 whole day, and you already feel confined by it, both geographically and socially. The evening seems to offer little. To do some stargazing, go to 131. To attempt to speak to Ruth, go to 138. If you have a previous appointment, this is the time to follow it up. And we are going to follow it up. So 180 plus 20 brings us to 200. Arbogast is not at the appointed meeting place. You give him 10 minutes, but he doesn't show. You curse the old crank and head back toward May's house. Psst. A hand snakes from a doorway and grabs your arm. You jump at the sight of that half-faced, glimpsed in starlight. One of them's near. He whispers, watching. Come with me. Go to 169. Arbogast leads you across the thoroughfares, slipping between houses. The metal structure looms at the end of the street. Silent now, he says, but the beacon will come alive tomorrow night. He ushers you into a little alcove behind the village school. Arbogast glances behind you, then sits down. Again you feel uncomfortable in proximity to that scarred visage. One melted eyelid lifts. You don't have long. Understand this. I was the conduit, the interpreter, before that fool Winters and his fancy words. The things which come to Emberhead care not for words. Those idiots think this is a ritual of sacrifice. He spits on the grass. It is a ritual of control. They know the words, but they do not comprehend the forces they call. He sniffs and sits back. No, you have no time for more questions. I will teach you how to end it, in the moment when all is lost. You can return this hill to the earth, to the death that came 40 years ago. I have tried it myself, but... His head sags. I no longer have the concentration. The chant is simple. It I can teach you, but you must perform it with the clarity of mind that I have lacked for years. If you will learn this strange chant, go to 175. If you had enough of Arbogast, go to 182. Okay, let's go ahead and let's learn this chant. You feel very dislocated from reality as you sit on a cliff top behind a school at night, learning a chant by rote from a madman. Arbogast is careful to teach it to you in sections. He glances into the sky. Won't work right now. Cloud covering the star. But he still takes care not to pronounce the whole thing at once. It has a rhythmic beginning and various elaborations, but the core passage is repeated 3 times. Finglui, I'm not going to try to pronounce that, but there's the chant. In time, Arbogast listens to your recital and nods. Remember every sound, but never speak it if you have plans left on this earth. You have discovered a secret. If your situation ever becomes desperate enough to try Arbogast's ritual, the text will offer you the opportunity to chant. At that point, if you want to try it, add 10 to your current entry and go to that new entry. Arbogast leans back. It will make you one with the living. Go to 188. Uh-oh. Let's see. So I'm going to make another note here. Chant. Followed up on the previous appointment. Entry plus 10. Go to 188. A black shape lunges from the dark. It wraps an arm around Arbogast's throat and drags him backwards out of the alcove. He grabs at the arm, kicking empty air. You see the gleam of a long blade in the moonlight. To make a dodge roll, go to 195. If you fail, go to 203. Dodge is half of my dex. Half my dex is 50, so I need at least so it's a 25. Which a 65 is most definitely not a pass. So before we go to our next entry, I need to take a small break. We'll bring the D100s out of shot and go to 203. Something smashes you on the temple. You reel back. You hear Arbogast yell and see the knife flash 1, 2, 3 times. Its shiny surface darkening with blood. Something strikes you again, and as you sink, flames leap from the ground, painting the night with infernal color. They pick out 3 dark figures. Take 1d6 damage, go to 45. Right, so we take 1d6 damage, which brings us down to 13 HP. And go to 45. You awake with a jolt, wrestling the blankets, ready for attack. The Ledbetter guest room is quiet, painted with morning light. There is nobody here but you. You release the blankets and wait for your heart to stop hammering. Go to 64. Okay, here we go. The Ledbetter kitchen is empty, although bread and eggs have been laid out for your breakfast. There is a note from May explaining that she has taken Ruth out for a few hours. If you were involved in a fight in the village last night and want to investigate the aftermath, go to 70. Otherwise, go to 78. Let's look at the aftermath. You feel skittish as you approach the spot where you and Arbogast were attacked. Your memory of the encounter is shaky, but you remember 1 or 2 vivid images. At first, you think there is nothing to see. No discarded weapons or figures lying unconscious. But upon closer examination, you find sticky, congealed patches and blackened lines in the grass. If the village had a police station, you could go there. But something tells you events have gone beyond that. Go to 78. Oh joy. And I jarred the camera there yet again. Let me see if I can adjust just slightly. There we go. Alright, so 78. You make a quiet circuit of the village, pausing in unobtrusive places to watch the villagers. It is rather busy for this time in the morning. Yawning locals stream back and forth along the roads, carrying bundles of split logs to the site of what you've heard referred to as the beacon. You see 2 figures already up in its superstructure, arranging the wood. The festival bonfire will be most impressive. But do you intend to stay to see it? You suspect by now that something is amiss here. While the villagers are distracted, you may do some illicit investigation, or you may simply leave town without looking back. You may now search May Ledbetter's bedroom, go to 83. Go alone to the village hall, go to 126. Closer look at the artisan's courtyard, 219. Spy on activity at the beacon, 29. Slip down to the east road and flee for good, go to 7. Something's been up with May this whole time, so let's go start with her bedroom. She's been a friend, but something's not right about her. So that Brings me to 83. Despite her hospitality, you do not trust May Ledbetter. You return to her house quite openly. Where else would you go? Inside, the dwelling is still empty. You rap on the bedroom door and wait. Silence. You ease it open. The Ledbetter bedroom is in marked contrast to your own, neat space. Dirty clothes are piled about the floor. On a rough quilt lie schoolbooks and cheap novels. You notice a raggedy old doll discarded down the side of the bed. Make a spot hidden roll. If you succeed, go to 95. If you fail, go to 89. Spot hidden remains a 70. Let's see what we can do with this. That's a 77, which is a fail, so we go to 89. We could spend luck, but I don't really think I want to spend luck here. Go to 89. You go through the Ledbetter's drawers. The only item of interest you find is a wedding photograph. May's husband was a wiry man with a square chin. Despite the formality of the pose, you can see the affection between them. You feel a pang of guilt at your intrusion. Also, May might return at any time. If you wish to push the spot hidden roll, make it again. If you succeed, go to 95. Fail to 101. If you don't want to risk it, go to 120. I think we're going to push it here. So we're going to try again. Let me see if I can straighten the... I'm trying to see if I can straighten this camera out just a little bit. Okay. $75 still won't get it done, so 101. A shadow falls across you. So, May Ledbetter says, you know. You try to get to your feet. A mob of villagers spills from behind her and surrounds you. You struggle, but you cannot resist the sheer weight of their numbers. You are quickly overpowered. Go to 108. Uh-oh. The fading light from the narrow window tells you afternoon is giving way to evening. Your hands are shackled behind your back, so you cannot even lie down on the rough bed. A woman you have not seen before comes in. Her face is wrinkled and her eyes dull. They don't meet yours, but she puts a cup to your lips. To accept the drink, go to 104. To reject it, go to 113. Might as well accept the drink, at least it'll be over faster that way anyway. You drink from the cup. It holds cool, refreshing water, which you gulp down. When it is empty, she turns to leave. You speak to her, but she steps outside and closes the door. Later, you try yelling. Your voice must be audible outside, but it has no effect. It seems the entire village is involved. Go to 205. Oh joy. This is not a great situation in the slightest. As the light fades outside, your little prison becomes dark. You can hear much activity around the building. Occasionally an orange glow passes the window. The only comfortable position in the shackles seems to be to sit against the end of the bed with your arms hanging behind you. You need to concentrate and come up with a plan. There's clearly no escape from your bonds. You do not know exactly what your captors want from you, but you cannot ignore the fact that they have spent the entire day constructing a massive bonfire. Go to 27. Gee, I wonder what they have in mind with that bonfire. The door scrapes, wrenching you back into the moment. Orange light spills into the house from blazing torches held at the threshold. Two large villagers step in and grab you. At least, you assume they are villagers. They wear heavy black cloaks, and their faces and hands are painted entirely black, save only for a red triangle centered on their left eye. You try to drag your legs, but they reach under your arms and lift you bodily from the bed. Outside, it seems that the whole village has congregated to see you. Every single one has a blackened face with a red triangle motif. Torches sputter and spill fire. You struggle, but you can see physical resistance is hopeless. You are marched to the center street and turn to face the beacon. Go to 117. Oh, Joe. Uh-oh. Now it's starting to go sideways. 117. Here we go. The procession down the approach is slow and formal, save when you sense weakness and yank at your captors. A chill touches you when you see 3 human shapes carried ahead of you, draped in red cloth. The beacon looms larger and larger, its dreadful silhouette a black triangle pointing to the stars. A low drone begins among the cloaked figures. Unbidden, the word mourners comes to mind. Smoke from their torches makes you cough. You feel heat on your face. As you reach the cleared area around the beacon, 3 dancers break from the pack. Young girls swinging balls of fire in spectacular arcs, drawing circles in the night air. One by one, they draw close to you and touch your forehead with sooty fingers. Each kisses you 3 times. Left cheek, right cheek, then forearm. Then they whisper in your ear. The smell of kerosene fills your nostrils. Make an appearance roll. If you succeed, go to 10. If you fail, go to 148. Appearance here is 50. So let's see what we can do with this roll. We may end up spending some luck just because our situation looks like it's going very haywire on us very fast. A 10 will work though. Very well, so we go to 10. Through your sacrifice, the village will be reborn, says the first dancer. You pass from earth to air for all our sakes, says the second. I've weakened the chains, says the third. Don't try to escape until the flames are high enough to hide you. You stare at the third dancer. In that inky visage, you clearly discern the frightened features of Ruth Ledbetter. Their dance weaves off and disappears behind the buildings. Go to 18. As you arrive beneath the beacon, 10 villagers close in on you. Working with surprising coordination, they immobilize you and lift you up the blackened iron stairs to the raised platform. You cannot help but shiver at the sight of the central framework, twisted from past blazes, and what you can now clearly see to be fastening points for chain. None of the eyes meet yours as they lash you to the metal. The village sings now, something rhythmic and ancient, carved from odd syllables. A second group ascends to the beacon, carrying the 3 red-draped bodies. With reverence, they arrange their burdens in a triangle around your feet. Then they withdraw, leaving you alone with the dead, shin-deep in a sea of kindling. Go to 33. Oh, delightful. Let's see here. 33. Here we are. It seems the entire village is gathered around the beacon to watch you burn. Beneath the face paint, you recognize May Ledbetter, and yes, that is Silas the coach driver standing at her side. The audacity and scale of the deception staggers you. A man steps up on the dais and raises his head with quiet authority. The frame of his spectacles obscures the red triangle on his face. So we draw here together again on this night, as we do each year, and we give thanks to the one who will preserve the village against the fire of the void. You will be taken by the ones from above in our stead. Your death will bring life to our village and bounty to our fields. It will safeguard our children and our elders alike for another year. We salute you, he bows his head. All around the beacon, bearers step forward and lift their torches to the edge of the raised platform. A ring of tiny flames flicker up around the perimeter. As they wink, the singing of the villagers drops to an unearthly rhythm. To throw all your remaining strength against the bonds, go to 44. To wait and see what happens, go to 40. Before we make that decision, I need to change my battery. So we were left with a decision at the end of entry 33. I think we're going to sit tight and see what happens. So entry 40. The flames snake across the kindling, catching and rising. Smoke rises and it becomes difficult to see the villagers. The 3 bodies surrounding you catch fire. Blazing with sooty red flames, you begin to cough as the smoke enters your lungs and fight down the urge to panic. If you've learned a strange chant and wish to try it, now is the moment. Otherwise, go to 65. Entry plus 10 is 50. So let's try it. The flames draw closer to you as Arbogast's chant comes to mind. It is hard to clear your head as the heat grows beneath your feet. You cough and splutter, but you sustain the words. Finally, you reach the key passage, and even as your clothes catch fire, you yell for the 3rd time, and I'm not going to go through the chant again. Go to 270. The swirling tongues of fire around you stop in midair. The people around the beacon freeze, their black painted faces bleached and stripped, as a second sun opens in the air above Emberhead. In an instant, the people, the village, the hill, all are consumed, incinerated by impossible proximity to sheer combustion, the essence of fire. Though your body is bound to the beacon, your being is freed. As a spark you race into space, catapulted through the vastness of the void. The stars burn past you with incomprehensible velocity, and then you are home. Forever you will dwell here, at Formalhaut, where the flames ripple and flow through immense spaces to the rhythms of the universe, where planets themselves move and tilt through unutterable wheels of fire, bound to the clockwork cast of the living flame. And among the flames, you will dance. You have single-handedly destroyed a section of New Hampshire about 16 miles in diameter. This also killed you. The end. I love how that's an afterthought, where you managed to destroy a section of New Hampshire about 16 miles in diameter, and oh yeah, it killed you as well. Just so funny. But that is the end of this adventure of Call of Cthulhu Alone Against the Flames. I'm just going to make a note of the result here. Actually, I'm not going to bother making a note of the result. I won't need the character sheet. But we're not quite done yet, because we actually got a delivery in on Sunday that I'm going to go ahead and unbox here. So let's bring that in shot. Doing a product unboxing from a World of Living Flame sounds like a really interesting experience and wasn't exactly on my bucket list, but here we go, I guess. So I just got this delivery in from Amazon on Sunday. I haven't had time to unbox it until now, though, so let's crack this open and see what we've got. Oh. Come on. There we are. Ow! Just want to make sure that this isn't going to draw blood, because I closed the blade of my knife right on my fingernail. Right on my finger again, but I think it got mostly fingernail, so it should be fine. But we see that the first thing we've got in here... Whoa, it's heavy, though. We've got a copy of Storm Above the Reich by GMT Games. This is, from what I've seen so far, it looks like this is an air version of the Hunters, at least in a narrative focus. Just taking a look at this. We're definitely going to do a deep unboxing of this later this weekend. I've also got Skies Above Britain due in. That's actually waiting for me up at my local game store. I'll probably be going to get that this weekend. And then I've got my P500 Skies Above the Reich, so I'll have all of those games as well. And the other thing we have in here is a 5-pack of laser pointers. I assume the color's all going to be the same here. Mostly what I wanted this for Mostly what I wanted a pack of laser pointers for was so I could put a pointer on my keychain if I can ever figure out how to make these things work. I wonder if I'm going to have to loosen the tips here. But something isn't working. Oh, whoops. I bet that's what it is. I bet there's the extra little piece inside. Let me see if that works. Trying to get this back in without dropping. Let me just put it back in there. Screw this back in place. Okay. Oh, and it's got a flashlight on it too. This is actually pretty slick. So I should be able to throw one of these on my keychain. That way I have a laser pointer with me all the time. And it's a 5-pack of them. Actually, it's a 6-pack of them from the looks of it. So yeah, I can definitely throw one on the... I can definitely get a laser pointer on my keychain. That way I have one with me all the time. But that will do it for this playthrough of Call of Cthulhu Alone Against the Flames. Sunday, the Summer of Lovecraft will continue with our playthrough of Arkham Horror 2nd Edition after we managed to steal Eldritch Horror from Yig. Then next week, we'll pay another visit to the Call of Cthulhu universe as we find ourselves this time alone against the tide. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.